We have got a treat coming at you right now. I'm pinching myself. I can't even believe that this is happening. The GOAT, the greatest bass angler of all time. We're about to talk with him. Kevin VanDam, are you kidding me? Let's get going.
This isn't another fishing podcast. This is another fishing podcast.
Well, there he is, the greatest bass angler of all time, known as the GOAT. A man that has inspired countless anglers. I'm kind of just like pinching myself that you've agreed to do this podcast, Kevin. I mean, we've known each other for a long time, but still, I've just been a fan for so long, just bass fishing in general. So I was telling friends last night that I'm interviewing Michael Jordan in my basement tomorrow morning to try to explain it to him, to try to give them a sense of how special this is for me. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for doing this, dude.
Oh man, I'm glad. Like you say, you and I go way back. We've got some great memories together, and seen a lot of cool things, so glad to do it, man. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate it. I don't know if you can see my screen, so I've actually brought up some. It's kind of going to be like This Is Your Life, Kevin. Is kind of what I think. But first, we're going to start with our life together, and that might sound a little weird, but this is how we're going to start it. So just to give a rundown on how Kevin and I know each other, I started with Bass Pro Shops, right out of college in the year 2000, January 2000. And not long after that, I started working with Kevin. And I got to tell you, so my first shoot with you is actually in 2001. You had just won the Classic. And working for Bass Pro Shops, we're like, okay, we got to capitalize on this. You just won the Classic. We got to do some retail videos. And so I did my boss sends me to Kalamazoo to your place, and I'm filming you. We're doing a retail video on the Grand River, and we're doing this particular retail video right here. I don't know. Can you see that? I'm not sure if you can see my screen.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So this was pitching to heavy hitters, winning techniques with Kevin VanDam. And it was like, I got to tell you, dude, I was like super nervous because I had looked up to you for so long. You know, I'd watched a billion Bassmaster episodes, read a ton of articles. And here I am responsible for making this video, this retail video. And so that was really, the first interaction that I had with you. And, it's still to this day I remember it like it was yesterday, man. And one of the great memories with you.
Yeah, we've had quite a few trips over the years for sure. And, yeah, that's crazy because, like, I work with Appleton a lot too. Obviously you film for Major League Fishing on the Bass Pro Tour, and it's crazy how many people that started at Bass Pro in the video department there now, still work for Major League Fishing or have worked for Bassmasters over the years. Just everybody kind of stays in that same loop. But yeah, Dave and I started in '92, and it was the same thing. We did a spinnerbait video together for Bass Pro Shops then. So, and we talk about that kind of stuff all the time. And I know you see Dave at all the events as well. It's just it's crazy how time flies.
It really is. So Dave is, Dave was my boss. Dave essentially was the person that I was in college. I was trying to get an internship with Bass Pro Shops, and I was just pestering. And Dave finally got me. He's like, he got me a job there essentially. And so, yeah, like just, it was, I just remember that. I remember like maybe the first day of filming on that shoot, and we're coming back from Grand River, and it was just like, I am like in the seat next to VanDam, the greatest bass angler of all time, a guy, it was just very surreal. And then it got even more surreal as we did a Nitro commercial, Nitro Boats commercial together. I finagled. I really had to kiss some butt to be able to get this commercial, but I knew some people in Tracker, And so I'm just going to play this this over this over our talk right here. This was shot in Florida. And I want to say this was like maybe December. It might have been like, I think it was winter 2001. We did this commercial. This is a Nitro NX750 commercial. And look at how young we look there. It's just, that's the thing that when I first looked at this again, I haven't seen this video in a while, but to see, it's like, wow, we are just spry young pups back then. But that was also a huge treat to be able to work with you on that. And, you know, that was a film shoot. So, I mean, it's quite involved, but just another one of those instances where I'm like, man, that's going to be something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And it's just one of those shared experiences that we've had. And lastly, is a little trip down memory lane here. You also, the very first Major League Fishing tournament, it was on Falcon Lake, or was it Amistad? I'm trying to remember.
Amistad, and it's probably one of the most viewed clips there is on YouTube now.
So which is, the last time I checked, I think it's got at least 430,000 views. And, you know, we'll just, this is from Major League Fishing from their YouTube channel, but this is, that's when you just right into my forearm with a jerk bait. You were really gunning for the win. You were just a little bit behind. I think it was Ayler. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so,
we were.
Yeah, so I'm all keyed up. I'm like, yeah, come on, keep going, right? And just your back cast just lays right into my forearm. And I'm like, and you're kind of laughing about it. I'm laughing about it. I look at it. The jerkbait is completely obliterated. All that there's left are just two treble hooks dangling, you know, out of my forearm. But I'll never forget that. I was like, yeah, I was so keyed up. It's just like the first time, too, that I'd really seen that format. And there was just so much high energy. I was like, dude, just win this thing, you know? So this is kind of gory if you know, you're not into seeing blood. Yeah, there it is. So that's one of the Gary Klein is there with the assist. Kevin is kind of, I think you actually might be tying the braid around the hook right now. There's two treble hooks basically buried in my forearm. And really of the 6 hooks of the treble hooks, 4 were in my arm. So it was I'd never really seen the braid trick, right? But you convinced me.
You were nervous, man. We had to put our hands over your mouth so you didn't scream like a little girl, too.
It was.
No,
yeah, go ahead.
It's, you know.
And so, yeah, Gary's really holding the arm back, and this is when it slipped. Oh no, that one that got it.
Yeah,
and that might have been
That's the second one. The other, I don't even see the other one in there, but it was bad. Like, oh no, there's the other one. I can see it around the other side. I hit you on the back cast. I mean, I didn't slow down, and I mean, it did. It literally ripped the split rings right off of those trebles and destroyed the bait. And we look back, and there's just those 2 hooks in your arm with, again, both, and those are like KVD mustads, or, you know, too.
Yeah,
they're not ain't no joke, you know. So
those are triple grips, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, heck yeah, and just one of those, you know. And it was like 15 minutes to go. It's the first ever round. I'm in second place. Ayler just bumped in front of me. I'd been leading a bunch, and you know, I got into a flurry of them, and you know, that happened, and it kind of killed the momentum for both of us, really, at the moment. But it, you know,
yeah,
it's something that you and I will. That's probably our most memorable moment right there.
Yeah,
unfortunately for you.
Yeah. And what was wild about it is that it really healed up actually very quickly. There was no bruising or anything. I was people were like, oh man, that's going to be a real problem later. I mean, it's going to take a while to heal. And the next day it was really not bad at all. So, but that's just one of those experiences with you, man, that, you know, yeah, it was a little bit gory, but I'm really happy that I was able to experience that. That was that first Major League Fishing event too. That format, I was like, this is really something. You know, every fish counts, and just all the score tracker. All the anglers know how they're doing. You know, and it's just it was just, as a fan first and foremost of the sport, it was just something that it was super exciting, and then also just to be hooked. You know, was just icing on the cake, I'd say. So, but I wanted to get into kind of a little bit of the meat and potatoes of who you are. You know, I know you've been interviewed about 1 billion times, you know, but like, and I'm sure I'm not going to cover any new ground here, but I do want to try to delve in more to who you are and just like what makes you tick. And first, like, what made you even get into this? Like, what was it about bass fishing that just tripped your trigger so much?
You know, from an early age, I loved it, catching them. Of course, I mean, it really didn't matter. I liked catching anything as a kid, but bass were my favorite. And when I got into tournaments, I fished my first tournament when I was 14 with my older brother. It was a team tournament. And it was a fall, you know, just a jackpot event here in Michigan. And I caught like all the fish to do well that day. And we ended up finishing second. And, you know, my brother paid for the gas, the entry fees, the whole thing. I was 14 years old, right? But I caught all the fish, so I thought I should get all the money. I mean, we won like $350 or something like that. And he had to say, hey, you know, I had to talk to a couple of the other guys and have them explain to me that, hey, in team tournaments, you know, you just split everything. It doesn't matter who catches them or whatever. I thought he was trying to pull a fast one on me there, but it really intrigued me right off the gate that, hey, you can fish, you know, for bass and do these tournaments and you can actually win money. And, you know, the competition was what really inspired me into it. So, you know, our local Cal Valley Bass Club, which my brother was already a member of at the time, when I was 16. And, you know, the first year I was a non-boater and you fish with, you know, a different club member, each different place that you go. And, you know, my first year just as a non-boater, I won Angler of the Year in our club. And the following year, my dad let me use our boat and I was a boater and I won it again. And I mean, I just loved it. You know, I mean, I love the competitive aspect of it, the figuring it out. I remember one of the first times that I went with my brother to practice for one of his tournaments. We went out to a lake and we started catching big smallmouth on spinner baits. And like, I caught a couple of good ones right away and he got a bite and he's like, man, we need to leave here now. I'm like, man, why do we want to leave? We just started catching them. He's like, well, I want to save them for the tournament. You know, Saturday's coming. You know, I want to keep them for that. And so just that whole mindset that's different than just going out there and fishing and trying to figure it out for the future, plan for a strategy for the weather that you got and compete against the other guys out there on a given body of water for that particular day. Just super intriguing to me early on. And I just really loved it right out of the gate. And it didn't take long, you know, I mean, a couple of years in, you know, I think when I was 18, I fished my first Bassmaster Invitational, and it was a wake-up call. You know, I just really wanted to see how good the best of the best were. I mean, I'm just like you. I grew up watching, you know, all the greats on television and reading about them in Bassmaster magazine, and I just wanted to see. I just put them on such a high pedestal. I just wanted to see what it was like to be around them and how good they were. I mean, it's like watching cartoons and watching Superman or Batman or, you know, any of those growing up. You put them on a pedestal, and I did. And those guys, some of them are still some of my very good friends. You know, I think back to Larry Nixon and Tommy Martin and, you know, Danny Brower and Guido Hibden and Hank Parker and, of course, Roland and Jimmy. And, you know, I watched the Linders on TV. I mean, I watched it all. I mean, my first growing up as a kid, the first show that I really got into, because that's what we had, you know, on TV, was Virgil Ward, Championship Fishing, you know. And so that's just the how it started for me. And the tournaments were a way to kind of figure that out. But I fished that first Bassmaster Invitational, pro level event, Thousand Islands, New York, and I drew out with Ron Shearer the first day, and he really intimidated me. He was a big time pro at the time, and he talked me into going to with him and his boat. And it was one of the roughest days still to this day I've ever been out there. Of course, back then our boats weren't near what they are now. We were in like a 17-foot, 10-inch Ranger with a 150, and gosh, I just felt lucky to make it back alive. We were out there in 8 and 10 footers, on Lake Ontario, and both of us each caught one bass. And then the next 2 days, I went to the fish that I'd found that were kind of calm and protected, and caught a good stringer both days. And Ken Cook ended up winning that tournament. It was one of the lowest winning weights there because of the weather that we had ever. I think it was under 40 pounds to win for 3 days, and I was catching 13 to 14 pounds on the stuff that I was at. So I would have had a chance maybe to win the first one that I ever fished, but it just didn't work out that way. And it's probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it really taught me a good lesson. When you're back then, we were pros paired together. How to manage that, how to handle that, and to work through that. And so, a couple years later, I fished a few more of them, and I started full time in the 90-91 season, fished the 6 invitationals, and won the points title, Rookie of the Year, qualified for the Classic. And then the following year, that qualified me to be able to be in the BP Top 100s too. I won a Top 100 in the fall of my first full season of fishing all the events where you could win Angler of the Year, and won Angler of the Year that year too. And, that was 92, and shoot, now it's 2023, 33 years later, and it's just flown by. I've had a lot of fun along the way, though.
What the thing that really intrigues me about you is just that it's almost like you came out of nowhere, dude, with this style that's like, it's almost like you're from another planet comparatively. Like compared to anybody else that was bass fishing, competitively bass fishing at the time. This run and gun style, making as many casts in it's like a mathematical equation. I've said this many times about your style. It's like a mathematical equation. It's like if you can make as many presentations in a day and trigger with erratic retrieves and trigger more fish, it's just like you're gonna with statistically with time, you're gonna end up on the top more. It's and like, where did you learn that, dude? Was that instinctual? Did you develop that through like local tournaments in Michigan? Where did that come from?
Well, it's all about efficiency, and the thing about any sport is competition pushes you to be better, right? You're only going to be as good as the level of competition that's around you. And I've seen this at all levels. If you're in high school football or tennis or, bass fishing or golf or anything like that, the level of competition is what sets the bar, right? You're only going to get better if you compete against people that can beat you. And that's true in all sports. And so I just, in my mind, figured out what was my comfort level and what fit my style. And, for these 3-day and 4-day events, you have to have a lot of fish found, and you've got to be able to adapt to changing conditions and weather and pressure and things like that. And that style, just like you say, from an efficiency standpoint, just from a statistical standpoint, is going to persevere in a lot of cases. So now you look at the anglers today on tour, they pretty much without fail, the majority of them fish this way. I've seen this whole transition to where it a few years ago for sure was that. Now, electronics are so good and anglers are so good is that they're fast to cover water and find fish and to get yourself in the right area, because we're fishing big bodies of water, right? Big, huge playing fields at all these events. But then once you find an area, you've got to be really good at maximizing the number of opportunities, especially in the Major League Fishing format where every fish counts. It really, really makes a difference. So that's something that I had to learn to adjust to over the years, is that different format. But I've had to do that all, through my career. We've had different point structures, Angler of the Year structures, different events, the Megabucks format where you fish a whole course. You have to adapt your style to that exact event format. And, whether it's Major League Fishing style or, 5 fish or, a 1-day tournament to 3-day tournament, 4-day tournament, whatever it is, you just have to adapt your game plan, your style, your strategy to fit that format. And that's what guys are really good at now. I mean, they've learned that that's what you have to do. And that's true of any sport. I mean, it don't matter if it's the NFL, NASCAR, Major League Baseball, bass fishing, whether it's a Toyota series or a Major League Bass Pro Tour, an Elite Series event, or a 1-day high school championship. You've got to set your style, and you got to pick your game plan based on the format that you're fishing under at the time.
And I'll say, I remember a tournament where you're so close to making the cut and you didn't make it, and I'll put it this way: you yelled out a battle cry. Okay, let's put it that way, because you're so close but didn't make it. And I remember telling you, I said, "Well, dude, it's your fault. You made all these kids. You made these kids that are, that you're competing against, that are so, so competitive and so good. It's like you raised the bar of this sport. You showed people that this is a legitimate sport. You were so consistent, and so dominant. It's just like, listen, this is a real sport. This takes real talent. Look at Kevin, And so you raised that bar, and you made this next generation. I mean, it's just the way.
It's humbling for sure. The problem in, a bass tournament is that you better get used to the reality. You'll lose a lot more than you're going to win. On the Bass Pro Tour, there's 80 guys. On the Elite Series, there's over 100. And day in, day out, you can't make a mistake. You can't have a bad day. You can't miss an opportunity and still be there to win. If you are that lucky, it's been a really special week. So when you do put it all together, it just makes it that much more special. And it's something that you really need to, sit back and enjoy. But day in, day out, you're going to lose a lot more than you're going to win. And that's just the reality of bass tournaments. The odds are against you, especially now. I mean, the level of competition, like you say, is the best it's ever been. These young kids are really knowledgeable. There's so much information out there, between just the research that you can do on the internet and Google Earth and watching YouTube videos. And, I love teaching people how to catch fish, but I've also taught my competition the way to beat me. Yeah.
I find that I find it really kind of it's amazing to watch it, especially. I mean, I'm a videographer, I'm at the back of the boat, but I'm also a fan, and I'm a spectator. I love kind of examining the sport that I grew up with and I love, but that's just something that I wanted to touch upon in this podcast. But your record is so impressive, but I wanted to ask you, what was it like winning that first classic? Getting that, that under your belt, because that's an important first win.
It was. So, the great Tim Tucker, covered me for, my whole career. And, I'd hear it every year. It's like, oh, man, maybe is Kevin the greatest angler to not won a classic? And I think that was my 11th one when I finally won in New Orleans in 2001. And it was a big relief. It was a load off. You put so much into it. I'm motivated and, you get yourself close. It's going to happen eventually. You keep telling yourself that. But, look over the years, I look at And I remember every one of those classics. Like, yeah, I remember, I can tell you from, the very beginning, my first classic, watching Ken Cook win, and the first year I won Angler of the Year, Robert Hamilton Jr. won at Logan Martin. And that's one that I thought I'd have a really good opportunity at, and it didn't work out. So, I mean, you put everything into it every year, and it's just, everything just has to line up exactly perfect for that to happen. And I've been fortunate, to have 4 classic titles. That first one was really special because it was so close, right? I didn't have any idea. It really caught me by surprise, and it made it really, really special. Pittsburgh was the same way in 2005. To beat Aaron Martin's right there at the end, the lowest winning weight ever. I mean, one of the most intense grinders. It is probably the most intense grinder in the history of the classic. And to be able to come out on top was pretty dang special. And then, to take it the other way and just have a dominating win like I did in New Orleans, my last classic win, and just knowing that, halfway through the day that I've got the winning fish in the box, right? And, to be able to watch my family's reaction in the Coliseum when they don't know and I do, that's pretty special. So I've lived through all those emotions, and I can tell you over my career, that's what I really learned is to appreciate it. Later in my career, it's hard to win, right? And so when you get that opportunity, you get close, you want to make the most of it. But more importantly, when you do, it's really critical to sit back and reflect it and truly enjoy and appreciate it. And that's what my mentality has changed, where it was like so focused always my whole career on just, trying to win and not, enjoying the moment that much. You just get so laser focused and so dedicated in that, what do you want to call it? You kill mode, that you're just trying to get in that zone and put everything towards that end result. And then, the rush is over and you missed it. So to me, I've learned the difference there, and I have I think with age comes wisdom for sure. And, I look at all of it a lot differently. I've just competed in my last season on the Bass Pro Tour. I made that announcement earlier this year, and I'm still super competitive, and I feel like, I've been competing at a very high level for my whole career, and I still can, but I just really want to enjoy this next phase of my career, take the time to, do some of the things that I've not been able to do in the past. I've got a couple tournaments left next year. I'm really putting a lot into Red Crest. This will be my last championship event, so you want to win it. And it's at at Lay Lake, which I won a classic there. So it's the same time of year. So I just obviously am going to put a lot of pressure on myself there, but I'm going to sit back and enjoy it as well. But, in my next life, I'll still get some of that competitive aspect filled just from the filming that I'm going to do. We filmed together a lot of times over the years, and it's very similar to tournaments. You're fighting the clock, the meter's running when you got a camera crew out there. It's expensive to have all of that happening. And, so when you're doing a television show or you're on a shoot like that, it's very similar to a tournament. You're fighting the clock, and you're against Mother Nature, and you're trying to, I want to put together a really top-notch show. I want to go out there and just blast them and make it fun for the viewer and teach them something. And that's what I love about shooting television shows or filming on the water is that aspect of it. So I'll get to continue to do that, but I'm not going to lie. I'm definitely looking forward to my last couple of tournaments.
You had mentioned your final regular season event, and I was fortunate enough to be able to film you that whole event, and that was really a treat on Saginaw Bay in Michigan. So this is stage 7. I pulled up some photos from that here. So this is stage 7 of the Bass Pro Tour, your final regular season event here. Just kind of go through your preparation for that tournament. Like you really found a heck of a spot. A few, I guess that flat had a few little pods on there. More than they weren't little. They're sizable pods of smallmouth. Go through that, preparing for it, and then go through that event.
Yeah, well, this whole season is, I made the announcement it's going to be my last season on tour, and you really want to win. And, the season flew by, and it's like each tournament, man, this is the last time I'm going to compete on, the Kissimmee chain or Lake Murray or, they just kept falling like dominoes. And I had really put Lake St. Clair and Saginaw Bay, you got an asterisk by them on the calendar because those are 2 home bodies of water in the state of Michigan. The difference is I've got a ton of experience on St. Clair and almost none on Saginaw Bay. Like the last time I fished Saginaw Bay before this event was that spinnerbait video I did with Appleton in 1992. So, I mean, it's 30 years later. And that just goes to show you how good St. Clair is, because I spend a lot of time going over there. But, St. Clair was a disappointment because I thought I'd have an opportunity to do well and maybe have a chance to win, and I didn't make it happen there. And I just didn't have a lot of high hopes for Saginaw just because I don't have any history. So I made a scouting trip over there before the off limits in June. And, I fished that area. I fished a lot of different areas, but I didn't find a whole lot. The water levels had really dropped. 2 years ago, that place was unbelievable. And I hadn't been there, but a lot of friends had, and, people tell me stories about it. That water level was up another 3 feet, and it just flooded a lot of those back marshes, and the largemouth fishing just exploded. Like, ton of fish, all the tournament there would take 20 pounds of largemouth for a 3-hour night tournament. And it's just what it had, grown into. But, 2 years of dropping water and loss of habitat with all that grass, it really changed it and made it fish a lot smaller. So I just got lucky in practice, and I fished through that area, and I got a couple of good bites, and I just knew that it had potential, but I didn't really know it was there until the first day of competition. And you were with me out there for that, and it didn't take long, and it really went down. And the first day was flat calm, and you can see there it's pretty rough that day. And that picture, Saginaw Bay is a beast. It can be brutal, but that whole week was highly emotional, highly stressful. I knew that once after that first day that we fished out there, I knew that if I managed it correctly, that I'd potentially have a chance to win the event. And it was almost a fairy tale. I mean, it came down to that last day, but when the wind switched out of the east and just blew so hard into that area and just really muddied it up and churned it up. I mean, I knew an hour in when we didn't get a single bite out there that, I was going to have to make that adjustment and catch largemouth. And I thought I could, but unfortunately, Matt Becker had that storybook, day, and he really caught him. And that's the end of it. It's just the way it went down. So I finished second, but it was a great week, but not what I was really hoping for. I mean, you couldn't script it. I don't know whose phone's ringing here, but
well, you're a busy man. I completely understand.
Yeah, but it was. I really thought, that this was gonna. And I never expected it going in that week. I just never. The day before the tournament started, I never would have dreamed that it would have worked out like that. But going into that final day, there was no doubt in my mind that we weren't going to go out there and just rip them. I mean, I thought we'd have another good day. And, how fitting is it after 33 years of, competing against Mother Nature and having a lot of success that, she got me back on that final day. It's very, very fitting. But we gave it everything we got. I mean, right to the end. I know it was rough as heck and put you through some pretty tough boat rides that week. We did a lot of scrambling around, but it was a lot of fun too. I mean, me, you, and the official each day. It's just it. I mean, you capture it on camera, but there's nothing like being there in person. And I know you that you felt the tension, you felt the stress, you felt the emotion yourself there because you can't. It's the magnitude of what was on the line for that event. It was everything. And it was disappointing in the end, but you saw by my reaction, it's like I wasn't mad or hurt or disappointed. Obviously you're disappointed, but the sport owes me nothing for sure. I've had a great time, had a really great career doing something that I absolutely love, have a passion for, and I'm really not slowing down. I'm just, I'm shifting from the tour and that competitive aspect to, being more of an educator and an ambassador out there. And the schedule is grueling, as you know, and that's a big part of my decision was that aspect of it, that it's basically, 20 to 25 weeks a year that you have no flexibility in the schedule. You can't miss an event. You can't miss a day. There's no sick days. There's no, there's no rain delays. There's not, you got to be out there. You got to be at your best at all the times. And, that part of it, I'm definitely not going to miss. That's what I'm really looking forward to. A lot of people have said, well, do you want to come back and commentate or, do you want to travel to the events and help out? And that's the schedule that I'm, trying to get away from. So that's why I really looking forward to, starting my own show and just on my own time clock and really working for the things that I really truly love and have a passion for.
Well, I want to tell you too, that tournament, that whole week, as a fan of competitive bass fishing, I wanted to be a professional bass fisherman when I was growing up, and so to be documenting that day, your final event, I felt like I had a real responsibility for the sport to do the best damn job I could, to be honest with you, dude. And that last day was so physically taxing. It was so rough. It was raining. My rain gear had failed. And for 5 hours, I was completely soaked. But, especially when you were wrapping up, you're doing your final soundbite at the end of the day, and it was rough. And I was like, Greg, you have got to hold this shot steady, because this is history right here. And I really, in some weird way, I was just like, I owed it to you, and it was special, dude.
Yeah, I hated to do it, but like with 15 minutes to go, I told you, I said, man, if we don't make this run down to that rock pile and go through the 5-foot waves again, I said it'd be like giving up. And I know it wasn't easy for you or the official to do, but I'd have thought about that forever for the rest of my life if I didn't do that. And yeah, we went down there and it didn't work out. And, I ended up finishing second, and it was one of those days where Mother Nature was relentless. I've fished through a lot of rough stuff and storms and lightning and that, and there wasn't any lightning. So it's not like it was unsafe from that standpoint, but just sheer wind and driving rain. We sat in it for 5 or 6 hours. It just didn't even let up. Just to keep the camera going, it was a monumental task. And I mean, and that thing isn't easy. I mean, those things, it weighs 25 pounds. To have that on your shoulder all day in that kind of rough water, it's I'm sure you were glad at the end of the event to get that off of there, because it's just brutal. It was one of those days where it wasn't fun, but the level of intensity, the sheer emotion, and I was wore out too. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, just because it wasn't going well, and that I lost the lead. I mean, mentally, that is extremely, draining. And to keep up your focus and the pace and the intensity, it's not easy to do. But that's what I live for, man. And I love, you kill to be in that type of moment and to have an opportunity like that. And you don't want to let it slide by. A lot of people say, well, man, you're the ultimate closer. Well, you know what? I did everything that I could do, and it was just out of my hands. And that day, I physically tried everything. We made a lot happen, but in the end, I just could not make it work unless we could get on those big smallmouth. And we gave it everything we got. We battled through it, and what a lot of highs and lows that week. Overall, though, really special week.
You've always been such an awesome brand ambassador. You've been fantastic with all your sponsors. You really, really promote products very, very well. And I was excited. I'm a Minn Kota guy. I've loved Minn Kota motors for forever. And the fact that you had that new Quest on there, that Minn Kota Quest, and it was the perfect proving grounds that week for that motor. But I wanted you to kind of, if you don't mind, just kind of go through that motor a little bit. You were singing its praises to some pros while we were there. But that thing is I'm really looking forward to getting that thing on my boat eventually.
Yeah, it is. It's the greatest trolling motor that's ever been made, for sure. It's a new brushless motor from Minn Kota, and it's got a whole lot of engineering behind it. I mean, since the first Ultrex came out, which really changed the way that hot lock, to have that electric assisted steering and all the features that the original Ultrex had. Everybody got one right away. I mean, they dominated the market with it. And then, some of the other competitors came out with, brushless motors and the same type of features. And, they had anchor lock and spot lock, their versions of it. Basically everybody's copied it out there. So for the last 3 or 4 years, Minn Kota has been quietly engineering and testing this new Quest motor. So it's brushless. It's got super high thrust. It's got an unbelievable amount of torque. What is truly crazy about it is how much more efficient it is than the previous model. I mean, it's like twice as efficient. It's got a lot more power, and it doesn't use near as much battery. It's super quiet. The mount itself, though, is something they put a lot of focus into, knowing that, we fish stuff like this, Saginaw Bay, Lake Ontario, and the Great Lakes. I mean, it just doesn't have any twist, flex, give, or anything to it. And to have all that torque and have all that power, you have to have a super strong mount. So it is everything it's cracked up to be and more. I've tried all the other brands. We fish them. They're on the cup boats. All the different other trolling motor manufacturers. PowerPole and Lowrance, Garmin, I've run all those other motors, and this is exponentially the best trolling motor, ever made. They really did their homework, really did, looked at everything, because, I mean, top to bottom, inside and out, forward to back, every aspect of that motor has been re-engineered, and it's really, really special. So, and like you said, in those conditions, it didn't matter. I could physically not stand there and hold on any of those spots. And even in 5-footers like that, you can just put it on spot lock and it doesn't even quit. It just, it just allows you to be able to sit back and focus on fishing. And that's what they try to do is, make products that really help any angler, whether you're a weekend angler or, a tournament angler, be more efficient and have a, better experience on the water. And that's, not just their trolling motor, but the Humminbird depth finders, the Raptors, all of it working and designed to be efficient and think and talk with each other, and to be able to have all those features, like that, all rolled into one with all of the technology on my boat in the One Boat Network. It's pretty special. They're a really good group of people, and that motor is everything it's cracked up to be.
I was really impressed during that Stage 7 tournament, your last regular season event. You had talked about integrity during the tournament. Could you go through that again and just, because I think it's super important. I think
Yeah.
I'll just let you. I'll let you talk.
Yeah. Well, this was a unique event with the weather that we had. They had the trailering policy in effect, so we drove up to the launch every day, and you're riding in my truck with me with my official, and that last, second to last day and the knockout round, we're on our way up there. And, several of the other competitors are riding along with us. And one of them was Randall Tharp, right? And he called me on the way and he said, dude, I just know that we're going to end up fishing the same spot. He fished different days leading up to that point for the qualifying rounds. And he said, man, I found a big school. And he said, I just know the way you fish. And I know, he said, we're going to end up on the same spot. And I just told him, I said, Randall, I said, if that's the case, that's fine. I said, there's nobody that I'd rather fish around than you. I said, we'll work it out. I said, it won't be no problem if you end up on the same spot. Well, lo and behold, we go out there, and I led the round going into it, and so I get to go out first, and I go out and just spot lock, waiting for lines in just outside of the area that I wanted to fish, what I thought was the best spot on the spot. And Randall pulls up to me. He said, yep, I knew it. He said, we're fishing the same spot. He said, I've been trying to save this. I had some bites here in practice. He said, I was trying to save it for, the championship round if I could. And he said, you're here. And he said, you got a good chance. But he said, I want to come back here and fish here. He said, I've got some other stuff to fish as well, but I'm going to let you have it for, this first period. And I said, okay. I said, Randall, you go ahead and fish. If do it, we'll be fine. And he's, that showed just a lot of class to do that. And, that first period, I caught a good limit of fish then in the knockout round, and really kind of secured myself there. And he came just like he said at the end of the first period. And, I let him fish anywhere he wanted around there. We fished around the outside, the perimeter. I was trying to find some more schools around there, and it didn't work out for him to make the championship round that day, but he didn't have to do that. And most of there's a lot of guys out there that would have pulled up, even if they didn't know the exact spot was right there, pulled up right beside me, or especially when they saw me catching them and come right on top of you and fished. A lot of other people would have done that, but that just goes to show you, Randall has a ton of respect. He knows how hard it is to get yourself in that position. And, we fished around each other for a while, and it's always been that way. When you get that opportunity, you're going to reciprocate that. Or if somebody else is in that, if the tables were turned, that's how you got to look at it. And that's the way I've always tried to do it over the years. And, as a competitor, I know, who I see around me. I know how people are fishing. I know, with the mapping and stuff, it's not hard I can tell when somebody's poaching you, and I've seen it lots, and I've seen a lot of things go on from a sportsmanship standpoint through my career that it's, people might be able to, they think they get away with it, but I know, and so do they. And most of us do know. And it's hard as a fan to understand that, when you pull up or you watch it on TV and you see 4 dudes on the same school at Kentucky Lake or, other tournaments like that, or you see 2 or 3 guys fishing around each other on a grass flat on the Potomac River. When you're in that mix, who's just been watching or who figured it out right from the the get-go. And so there's a level of integrity there that I've always tried to uphold, and there's a lot of gray area in it. And guys, again, there's a lot of money on the line, and just because something isn't against the rules doesn't mean it's not wrong. And over the years, I've always tried to uphold the highest integrity for myself and around the people that I'm fishing against. And for the most part, I felt like I've done that. I've had a lot of people tell me that, especially in my retirement year this year, is I appreciated the opportunity to compete against me and fish around each other over the years. And I've had a lot of fun. I had some great rivalries with different guys like Jeff Creed over the years, or even Aaron Martins, but in the end, we just have such a level of respect for each other that it kind of goes, you don't have to say a word. You don't have to really, think about it or anything like that. It's just, it's just known. It's just there. I mean, we all know that. And it's sad because that's changing. I think in the beginning years of my career, when we fished the invitationals and pros got paired with pros, a lot of that respect and integrity was taught that way. I mean, when you drew out with Tommy Biffle or Denny Brower or Rick Clun, in those events, Larry Nixon, Tommy Martin, whoever, you were going to get an education. And, that's not that way anymore. It's just a different era and a different time. And there's definitely, it's not the same. And it's not should be like it always was in the old days or anything like that. But if you don't have integrity at the end of the day, why even bother?
I think it would be a huge mistake, talking about your career and not mentioning your wife, Sherry. I've noticed on many shoots, you guys would talk during breaks, before the tournament, after the tournament. She seems to be a huge integral part of your success, and I see her as your coach. Really, like she has been a real like a motivating force there. Can you just go? I mean, am I right there?
All of that and a lot more. Sherry's definitely one. She doesn't like to be in the limelight. She's always tries to stay hidden in the background, but she's very visible to me in the fact that, she's my business manager. She's the mother of our children. She does so much, for KVD Outdoors that most people would never know or see. And you're right. Beyond that, she's my number one fan, supporter. She is the one that manages our business and our brand, and is very protective of that, to oversee all that. She handles all the day-to-day communications with sponsors and, planning of all of, my schedule and travel for the tournaments and for, all the other, appearances and things that we have to do, and, social media, filming, all of it. She's part of all of that. But first and foremost, she's there, trying to keep me motivated. She's sending me texts all the times between the breaks and stuff. You can do it, motivational quotes and things like that. She's super positive. And the other thing is she's really organized, like to a point where, some people might say she's OCD. She's very much, you got to have everything in its place. And that's something that she's taught me from a tackle organization standpoint that really has helped me over the years. I mean, to be efficient on the water, you got to know where everything's at. And it's got to have its place, and it should be easy to find. And that's what we do with everything. So whether I'm, at a tournament and it's the tackle boxes in my boat, or it's my gear, back at home, the way that I manage my tackle organization and prep from event to event, I don't have a lot of time between tournaments. So if you just throw a bunch of junk in your truck and, you don't know where anything's at, and it's this, I got the same worms from Kissimmee chain that I've got up at Saginaw Bay in there, it's not the same stuff, So I go through and reorganize, unpack and repack my gear after every single event, just so I know where everything is at and exactly what I have is there, and that I'm not low on 12-pound test fluorocarbon, or if I need an extra high-speed bait cast reel as a backup, whatever. I have all of that there, and I mean, foundationally, that organizational instincts that she has, and it goes way beyond just my tackle, but it's like that for our whole business. For managing, the calendar and appearances and all of that, you have to be on top of stuff, and that's what she does, and allows me just to really focus on the events when I'm there. She handles all of that, and takes care of all of that communication and the things, so that when I get to a tournament, I can just get in my mode and do what I need to do. Practice days are dark to dark, so I don't have a bunch of time to respond to, an email from a sponsor about a request, at 10 o'clock at night. I'm exhausted. So it just allows me to keep my mental focus there. And she handles all of that there. I mean, she does the job of 3 people, and it's taxing and exhausting. And, hopefully, again, with this transition from the tournaments into just being a brand ambassador and a television host, and filming, that it'll allow us a little more flexibility, and I can help out a little bit more on that front that she's had to put so much more effort into.
Well, I want to wrap up here. You've been super generous with your time, and this has been a real treat for me. But I do want to get, if you have just a little bit of time, I do want to get your take on just the future of the sport. Where do you think this thing's headed?
So right now it is it seems like a really good place. Tournaments are very popular. There's a lot of young and up and coming anglers. You see this great growth in high school fishing and college fishing, and at the tour level, to me, the opportunities have really never been better. They just really haven't. There's a lot of great opportunities for guys to get into it. The thing that concerns me the most going forward is the resource and how we're managing it, and tournaments in general. I mean, if we're going to continue to keep adding more people on the water and more events, and that, we definitely have to really focus on the conservation aspect. Obviously, legally, we can go out there as a licensed angler and kill 5 a day, or kill a limit of fish every day, but none of us wants to do that. So obviously the catch, weigh, release format is very positive on that front. Hopefully that can expand into other levels, into other series, to be able to do that, because it is great for the resource. And I think the awareness among the angler group, the tournament organizations, and just the general fishing audience about, proper fish care and management, habitat improvement, stocking programs, all of that. That's all really critical. The last couple of years, we've been able to do that through our foundation to work on some different habitat projects. We do scholarships for college fishing. We do some stocking programs to really be able to focus on that, because we're not getting, they're not building more reservoirs. They're not building more lakes. So we've got to manage and take care of the water that we have better than we ever have before. And I think we're doing that. We're doing a lot of cleanup projects, and again, just awareness and habitat improvements and things like that is really, really critical going forward. And I want to be a voice for that in the future as well. So we all have to work together, and I think overall we're really doing a good job of that. Fishing, bass fishing especially, it's better than it's ever been. It truly is. And part of that is, Mother Nature, but a big part of it is, the state and federal agencies, the way they're managing a lot of these fisheries, working along with the tournament organizations and the anglers, even at the local level, to ensure that we're doing the best job at managing these resources and taking care of these fish and the bodies of water that we're all, fishing on. Because you're not going to keep this growth, you're not going to keep this enthusiasm for more people getting into fishing unless we got good fishing. People want to go out there and catch fish. And, what we're talking about bass, that's what my passion is. But when we're doing things to help, bass or the bass population or habitat, it helps the bluegills, the shad, the crappie, the walleye, pike, muskie, whatever. And that's really important. So that's something that, in the last 10 years, I've just learned the importance of conservation from a high level and how you have to work with these agencies and organizations to do it through Johnny Morris. This guy, the founder of Bass Pro Shops, he's the greatest conservationist of the modern era, and he puts his money where his mouth is, and he's really engaged and involved at some of the very highest levels, all the way down to grassroots programs that really make a difference. And he's been an inspiration to me. I've seen the things that he's done, and I'm getting more and more involved in that. I've got 2 or 3, 4 big coming up that I'm lending my name to and working to be a part of. So it should be a lot of fun, and it's something I'm really looking forward to being a voice for in the future.
So just to wrap up, my last question: how do you want to be remembered?
Well, hopefully, I'm not going to be forgotten too soon anyways, but
no one's going to, there's no forgetting you, Kevin. But I mean,
yeah.
Your career, you've inspired countless anglers, me included. And so I just personally want to thank you for that. But, how, what do you want to be, what is your mark that you want to be remembered for?
Well, I hope people appreciate the way that I played the game, with respect and integrity. And again, I love the aspect of being able to help people be more successful out on the water at whatever level they want to do about it. And that's, just like what you just said, that's all I need. I'm not doing it for my ego, or, to try to make myself feel better by any means. I truly love to help people. And I love it when a father and son are out there and they have a great day on the water, and maybe they saw a video that I did or a tip, or they are using a bait that I developed, and help build their confidence to go out and try something new. That's where that's what makes it for me. That's what gives me, a great feeling inside, is just to know that I made a difference and that I helped somebody have a better day or a better time on the water with their friends or their family, or maybe it was a tournament. Doesn't really matter. I really that's why I do it. I love the sport. I love the people around it. That's what makes it really special. We're all in this thing together, and I look forward to this next phase, being able to even be a better ambassador and a better teacher in the future and in the coming years.
Well, man, thank you so much. Number one, for just doing this podcast, but also for just raising the bar. You really legitimize the sport. I've always thought bass fishing was cool, but you're a big part of making bass fishing cool to these younger anglers. So I think I speak for just countless anglers just saying thank you. Like I said earlier, you've really inspired people, man. And this has really been one of those bucket list items for me to be able to talk with you doing this podcast. So, and it's working with you as a fan first and foremost has really, really been a pleasure, my friend.
Well, we've had a lot of good times together, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully you're in the back of my boat at Red Crest, and it's the championship day, and we'll be in contention, because there's nothing that could make it finish any better than that right there.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Really enjoyed it.
See you, buddy.